Members of Parliament, support staff, radio listeners, TV viewers, all following this meeting via social media, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this public meeting, number 3, for today, Thursday, October the 16th. At this time, I want to give a special welcome to the Honorable Minister of Finance, Ms. Marinka Gums, and her support staff. We have established a quorum of 14 members. Please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. I have received one notice of absence, and that is from MP Franklin Myers. Is there any member who wish to have the floor for notifications? I recognize MP Duran as wanting that opportunity, so I give the floor to MP Duran.
Good afternoon to you, Madam Chair, my colleagues, the Minister of Finance, our support staff, persons in the Tribune, and a special good afternoon to the people of St. Martin. Madam Chair, we have several meetings that are pending. We have the banking law meeting, we have the meeting on the abolition of taxes, the dividends withholding tax meeting that the Minister promised to come back. We have even the meeting on the central bank, Madam Chair. But it seems that we as Parliament are constantly running behind ministers, Madam Chair. The vervangingsregeling by the government is very clear, which states if a minister cannot attend, the replacement minister, and the replacement minister has a replacement as well, Madam Chair. I notice a very dangerous trend, and Madam Chair, we have traveled, you, myself, and other colleagues, to the Netherlands to discuss the democratic deficit. But there seems to be a serious democratic deficit here in the House of Parliament, and I think we really need to work on it because up to now, we cannot receive answers, we cannot have meetings that are being called, but here the minister is here to discuss something that was called even later, of which I am grateful. But we need to handle the people's business, Madam Chair. Because, Madam Chair, for me, I want to just be clear, the people should not have to suffer for this political malpractice that is taking place. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Thank you, MP Duran. The next MP to speak during notifications is MP York. MP York, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to the Minister and support staff, guests in the Tribune, and honorable colleagues. Madam Chair, I'd just like to bring to the Minister's attention that we have, as at least my faction has, 3 outstanding letters that have still not been answered. 1 from May the 9th and 2 from September, and the most recent one being about tax holidays. I think, Madam Chair, the questions are very straightforward, and I don't see why it has to take 5 to 6 months to get back an answer. I mean, tax holidays is simple. Has there been any tax holidays given? Are you in any conversations now about tax holidays, etc.? These are very straightforward answers that does not need 2 to 3 months to get replies to. So if the Minister will be able to look into that, we'll appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, MP York. The next MP to speak is MP Utley. Is it correct, MP Utley? I'm looking at my... Yes, okay. MP Utley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, as one of the co-signers on the request for the central bank meeting, I hope that we can have this meeting as soon as possible. It was put in as an urgent public meeting. I also look forward to the continuation of the GB meeting. I was listening to the radio today, and man, oh man, the people are really getting on bad. So we really need to handle this meeting so we can find a way forward to handle GB and the central bank saga. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MP Utley. The next MP to speak during notifications is MP Irian. MP Irian, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, obviously some of you may know last week there was a court case from Mr. Bloom and myself, and beyond the court case, Mr. Bloom said some disturbing things that he possibly oversaw his own process for nomination, also that the leadership of the DP is who recommended him to go or asked him to go on radio to explain the process, and that and other aspects that came out in the media. And typically, the government would respond in terms of its inaccuracy, which we saw with another media in Curacao. But this time around, the government has not addressed any of these matters at all. So is it for us to assume that it is true or not? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Irian. I see MP Lewis as well. MP Lewis, you have the floor for notifications.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to the Honorable Minister of Finance and your support staff. Good afternoon to those in the Tribune and to my honorable colleagues here. Madam Chair, I will deviate a bit from everyone's sentiments. I would like to speak directly to the students of St. Martin. I would like to advise them to continue doing their best in school and also to avoid all the school fights that we're having, be it on the French side, be it on the Dutch side. Education is a must. It's important for your future because tomorrow you guys are the leaders of St. Martin. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Lewis. The next MP to speak during notifications is MP La Cruz. MP La Cruz, you have the floor.
A blessed afternoon, Madam Chair Lady, my colleagues, Minister and her support staff, those in the Tribune, and everyone listening. Madam Chair Lady, I'd like to wish my little cousin, Jamiah Herbert Newton, a congratulations. She has now achieved and today signed her diploma. She has a master's in sports leadership and management. And I truly expect, after someone that received a scholarship from St. Martin, that there is a job waiting for her here back on St. Martin ASAP, and not that she will want to remain outside of St. Martin because she's either overqualified or there is no budget. That is one, Madam Chair Lady. And two, Madam Chair Lady, during the budget debate, I brought a motion, the motion of LNG. It had a specific time to bring answers or a plan back from the Prime Minister to Parliament. Madam Chair Lady, that time is up. So I would urge the Prime Minister to make a call and bring back some answers to us here in Parliament, so I don't have to call a meeting and make him look irresponsible. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP La Cruz. Thank you, all members of Parliament who have made use of the opportunity to give a notification during the start of this meeting. We have as an agenda point for this public meeting, which is a question hour, as we call it, and we have questions from MP York directed to the Minister of Finance regarding oversight of TelEm and management accountability. This request for this question hour is registered under IS 120, and it is dated October the 1st, 2025. Before going over to the agenda point and highlighting some of the specifics of a question hour, a vragenuurtje, allow me to briefly respond to some of the notifications that have been made earlier, and in particular, the one regarding outstanding meetings and questions. I had hoped, but we have not yet finalized it, to have an updated listing of the outstanding meeting request as well as outstanding answers to questions of Parliament, but I do plan to have that shortly to share not only with the members of Parliament, but with the people of St. Martin. Secondly, in every letter sent to the ministers inviting a minister to a meeting of Parliament, it is mentioned that, of course, the possibility exists, and I encourage the ministers, if they cannot make it to a meeting of Parliament, to have the minister who substitutes or replaces that minister be at Parliament in order to sort of speed up the handling of requests for meetings. In fact, just earlier today, I got a question regarding the need or even the reason for having something like a question hour. And it is precisely in order to bridge the gap in terms of time and calling meetings and whether ministers can come or not, that a possibility for a question hour was included in our rules of order. And that's why there are specific guidelines and rules as it regard a question hour. This was introduced in St. Martin's Parliamentary Rules of Order following Hurricane Irma, and the Article 69 and the different parts of that article were included in our Rules of Order. During the question hour, with its very specific criteria, only questions and answers will be given on the topic at hand. So functioning ideally for a question hour, a member of parliament, in fact, it can be more than one member of parliament, picking up on a topic and asking questions quickly in order to get quick answers from the minister. In addition to that possibility, we have, of course, the interpellation debate, as it is called, and of course, then we have our regular ways of asking questions to ministers and our meetings, public meetings, and others. The procedure, for example, for a question hour, we have established that this can happen. Questions can be answered during the question hour by the minister, and these can be submitted from Monday through Wednesday during the so-called, what we call a preparation week. And the deadline for submitting these questions is 5 p.m. on Wednesday. The Member of Parliament submits the questions to Parliament in accordance with Article 69 and further of the Rules of Order, and is one of the ways, like I mentioned, to ask questions. These need to be submitted to Parliament with the request that they be answered orally, which request will be sent to the minister. All of this is outlined in Article 69 and the different paragraphs of that article. Seeing that in theory, all 15 members can actually submit questions for the question hour, a selection would have to be made in a case like that, which questions will be put forward firstly, and which of the questions can fit in a particular question hour. We also have the maximum speaking time. Again, it is all about members of Parliament having very specific questions on a topic and getting very specific answers to their questions. And if we had more than one topic and more questions than from one member of Parliament, we would have had to make that consideration. However, in the case today, we don't have that. But we do have it outlined what would happen if more members had submitted questions and we only have, of course, one question hour at a time. So the minister is then invited and a convocation would go out for the question hour. Now here it comes. The Member of Parliament who submitted the questions in writing, which were then submitted to the minister, will get the opportunity to read his or her questions as already submitted for a maximum of 2 minutes. That's according to the Rules of Order. The minister is then given the opportunity to answer the questions for a maximum of 1 minute per question. And then, of course, we have the same member who had the initial questions can then ask, they would have the opportunity for a maximum of 2 minutes again to ask additional questions. The minister is granted 1 minute to answer each question, and then other members, depending on the time, of course, can be given the opportunity to ask a question on the topic or the answers given by the minister. If there is a time constraint and the minister cannot answer all of the questions because of the time and the length of the answers, the possibility, if the requester so desires, can be given to the minister to then respond to the remaining questions in writing later that day, or the questions that were not answered can be put on a meeting, on a other question hour meeting. And I say this to say that in the case of today, for example, we have counted that there are 14 questions. That would mean that the minister would have 14 minutes to answer the questions. Yes, I know the paper, the letter, the request says, I believe it's 8, but the request is 11 in total, but one or more of the questions actually contain 2 questions. So we have come to 14 individual questions, and which would mean a minute for every question. So we have the minister, as I mentioned, and then we could have another member of parliament would have 1 minute to ask questions on the same topic, and the minister is then given in that round 1 minute to answer each question. There are also some other differences with a question hour, which is a public meeting, but compared to our regular public meetings, and that is no permission can be asked for interruptions, and you can't ask to hold an interpellation, to which I referred to earlier, and nor can motions be submitted. I just wanted to make that very clear so that we can get, first of all, we have the questions. They have already been submitted by the requestor of this meeting, and then the minister have the time, but if answers are not completed, the possibility to send those in also is in accordance with our rules of order. So having explained that, and just in case someone was going to mention or ask, yes, there is a discrepancy in the time mentioned in our Dutch version of the rules of orders vis-a-vis the English version of the rules of order. But in order to make it possible for the members to be able to ask their questions and the minister to have time to give the answers, we maintain the English version, and that is the timing that I just gave. So today, Thursday, October the 16th, we have the questions, as I mentioned, submitted by MP Darryl York, registered on the IS 120. And these questions were submitted in accordance with Article 69 and further of the Rules of Order. In other words, it was asked that these be provided orally by the minister, so the minister would be invited to come and give those, to listen to the questions and give the answers. So, still keeping with the Rules of Order, I now invite Member of Parliament, MP York, who will read his questions on the subject to the minister and provide a brief explanation if time permits. MP York, you have the floor.
Once again, Madam President, honorable colleagues, guests in the Tribune, and a special good afternoon to the viewing public. Madam Chair, I asked for this question hour today to have a direct conversation about something that really matters to the public, the governance, the financial management, and the leadership of TelEm. It's important to remember that TelEm isn't just a company, it's a public asset. Its performance affects the services our people use every day and the trust they place in us. And lately, well, in all fairness, for a while now, there's been growing concern in our community, both publicly and privately, about the company's direction and accountability at the top. Now, we could have waited for a larger, more formal inquiry, but I believe public concerns deserve timely answers, and as the Chair Lady just alluded to, a question hour is the right tool for this. It allows us to get clarity from the source without unnecessary delay. This isn't yet a call for a full-scale investigation. It's about a focused dialogue to clear the air. The questions we're asking about the quick scan results, company expenditures, and the delay in appointing a permanent CEO are straightforward. They're not meant as accusations, but as a necessary step to get the answers the people of St. Martin deserve. And just to be clear, Some viewers might wonder why the finance minister is here to answer questions concerning TelEm. The reason for that is also straightforward. The minister has taken up the role as a shareholder representative as it pertains to TelEm on behalf of the Council of Ministers. That means that all communication and inquiries between Parliament and TelEm must and can only go through her office. We can't provide oversight if we don't understand the situation. This meeting is about getting that understanding, so we can all move forward with confidence, or, if deemed necessary, a subsequent meeting. For in the end, the foundation of good governance is not complexity, but understanding. We cannot oversee what we don't know, just as we cannot defend the public trust without first ensuring that the public is properly informed. Hence today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, MP York. I know you took all the time for your elucidation, but the minister has the questions, of course, and all members of parliament have them. And if you don't, then you can get them on the IS 120. So thank you, MP York. And Minister, you now have the floor. I don't know how long your answers are, but again, looking at the time, I don't think it is necessary to repeat the whole question and then give your answer, if that was your intention. So I am just saying. But Minister Gums, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to the honorable members of Parliament, persons, guests in the Tribune, people of St. Martin, all under the sound of my voice, and my support staff. Pleasant good afternoon to all. Questions posed by MP York. Question 1 had to do with the results of the recent quick scan. A quick scan was conducted as phase 1 of TelEm's path toward financial independence. The results of the quick scan summarized actions needed to be taken to guarantee survival of TelEm. It emphasized the need for the sale of TelEm building, the need for capital investments, a comprehensive financial turnaround plan that focuses on improving liquidity and cash conversion, and an operational turnaround plan. Question 2, MP York wanted to know if the results could be made public. In accordance with the Landsverordening Openbaarheid van Bestuur, government documents are in principle public and can be shared with Parliament. However, the quick scan of TelEm contains information that is commercially sensitive and directly tied to the company's negotiations with creditors and financial partners. Full disclosure could therefore affect both TelEm's financial position and the country's economic interests. As such, these results of the quick scan cannot be made public. Question 3, what is government's plan of action to address the findings of the quick scan? Government remains in close contact with TelEm. What is essential is the financial and operational turnaround plan. Together with TelEm, discussions are being held to ensure that the turnaround plan needed as outlined in the quick scan is executed at the soonest. In addition, government is finalizing a 3.5 million guilder guarantee to secure TelEm's severance program, ensuring former employees continued to be paid. This arrangement also gives TelEm the opportunity to access $1 million in liquidity to support its operations. In addition, it relieves TelEm from having to currently pay an amount of 1.6 million guilders to Vida Nova. The issuance of this guarantee comes with conditions agreed upon with TelEm to ensure long-term financial stability of the company. Question 4, can Parliament receive a copy of the quick scan? I fully recognize Parliament's right to be informed. For this reason, I was prepared to share the report via the confidential route. However, after verifying with TelEm, we were informed that due to the sensitive nature of the information contained in the report, it cannot be shared at this time. Nonetheless, I remain willing to request formal advice from the Department of Legal Affairs and Legislation to determine whether the report can still be shared under certain conditions. This advice will be requested as soon as possible. TelEm has, however, confirmed its willingness to hold a closed-door meeting in which the findings of the quick scan can be presented and discussed in a confidential setting. Question 5, traveling expenditures of the TelEm Management Board in the last 12 months. Please note, this answer was received directly from TelEm's management. The TelEm Management Board's traveling expenditure, which includes the Supervisory Board, TelEm staff, and Management Board, amounted to approximately 230,000 or 231,000 guilders over the last 9 months. This figure reflects a conscious effort by management to limit travel and prioritize financial prudence given the company's current financial constraints. To break down that amount, Senior Management Board, approximately 75,000, Supervisory Board, approximately 51,000, TelEm staff, approximately 105,000 guilders, totaling the 231. Question 6, traveling expenditures of consultants engaged by TelEm in the last 12 months. Please note that this answer too was received directly from TelEm's management. The traveling expenditure of consultants engaged by TelEm over the last 12 months totaled approximately 170,000 guilders. This reflects a single engagement under the network project, demonstrating TelEm's commitment to minimizing external consultancy costs. Cost of the project team, lodging project team, 120,000 approximately. Car rental project team, 39,000 approximately. Miscellaneous, 10,000 approximately, totaling 170,000 approx. Next question. This is question 7. Positions vacated by relieved employees are currently being filled by consultants. Please note that this too was received directly from TelEm's management. Following the 2024 restructuring process, TelEm has streamlined its operations to ensure future readiness. Currently, only 3 consultants, 2 of whom are local, serve in line functions. All other consultants are engaged on a project basis, reflecting TelEm's strategic shift towards a leaner and more efficient organizational model. Question 8, CEO search been completed? Why has a new CEO not yet been appointed? And when can this appointment be expected? The CEO recruitment process was conducted by BDO with a final recommendation submitted in December. A nomination was then presented to the shareholders in May 2025, and the appointment is now pending their feedback. Following the completion of the quick scan in July 2025, the intention is to proceed with phase 3 of the turnaround plan and appoint a qualified leader to implement it. The decision on the nominated candidate will be shared with TelEm next week. Next question. Are there any measures being considered to ensure leadership continuity and accountability at TelEm, particularly at the management board level? In addition to providing the guarantee, the government is also taking steps to strengthen leadership continuity and accountability within TelEm. As part of phase 3, following the completion of the turnaround plan, the government will finalize the supervisory board appointments and address key C-suite leadership positions to ensure stable and effective management capable of executing the turnaround strategy. TelEm is required to participate in monthly review meetings with government, during which financial results, liquidity, and compliance will be closely monitored, commencing the last Wednesday in the month of October. Importantly, should TelEm fail to meet its financial or operational obligations for more than 1 month, the government reserves the right to intervene directly at the shareholders' level to protect the company's stability and the public's interest. These measures are designed to secure effective leadership, improve accountability, and build the foundation for TelEm's long-term stability. Question 10, how is government ensuring proper oversight of TelEm's financial stability? Conditions have been established to enable the government to provide guarantee, including the obligation for TelEm to submit monthly financial reports and to participate in monthly meetings to keep government updated on its financial status. Additionally, the turnaround plan will serve as a key component in guiding the next steps. In phase 3, following the receipt of the turnaround plan, which is expected to provide crucial input, the government can proceed to address governance matters by finalizing supervisory board appointments and strengthening the C-suite leadership. Next question. Question 11. What have the financiers submitted to government and to TelEm, including any formal request, conditions, or agreements? While meetings were held with the financiers, a formal letter was also submitted to the shareholder on March 28, 2025, reinforcing the same concerns that had been previously discussed. From the financier's perspective, it remains important to see a clear demonstration of the government's commitment to supporting TelEm. In TelEm's most recent correspondence to government, the company indicated that should it be unable to pay 1.6 million guilders in addition to its regular monthly payments, Vidanova would, as of October, discontinue payments to former TelEm employees. This matter has since been addressed following discussions held with both TelEm and Vidanova. The government responded by expressing its willingness to provide a guarantee of 3.5 million guilders. This arrangement, now being finalized, ensures that Vidanova has a security of 7.5 million. This measure guarantees the continued payment of obligations to former TelEm employees while simultaneously providing TelEm with liquidity relief to support its ongoing operations. The current and former employees of TelEm have played a vital role in providing essential telecommunications services to the people of St. Martin over the years. The restructuring of the company was undoubtedly a challenging process, and I recognize that it may have caused uncertainty for many former employees. These individuals should not have to face any additional uncertainty regarding the timely receipt of their monthly payments. As such, ensuring the continuity and reliability of these payments remains a top priority for government. There was also a discussion regarding the much-needed sale of the TelEm building, a matter that I have been actively reviewing. Together with representatives from VROMI, a site visit of the building was conducted. VROMI is currently assessing whether the facility could be suitable to accommodate the tax office and the receiver's office. In addition, discussions have been held with APS to explore possible financing options. While government is considering the feasibility of purchasing the property, TelEm has been advised to continue with its sale process in the meantime to avoid unnecessary delays. That comes to the end of my questions and answers from MP York. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Minister Gomes, for those answers. You were well within the time according to the amount of questions that you received. And now, starting with MP York, you have the possibility for any additional questions you might have on this topic. Do you need that, MP York? MP York, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Minister and support staff for the answers. Minister, I'll keep it brief. For my question number 8, we're about questioning the CEO search and what's taking so long with appointing a new CEO. I think if I understood the Minister correctly, Madam Chair, the Minister explained that BDO's report was finished in December. It was presented to the shareholder in May, and the end of October, the decision will be communicated, a communication will be made with TelEm concerning that, based on the findings of the quick scan, et cetera, et cetera. But what I'm confused with, the quick scan has been completed since July. So why the time between July and now, and coincidentally after this meeting, to make a decision based on the future of the leadership as it pertains to TelEm? Question 7, how many vacated positions were filled by relieved employees are currently being filled by consultants? I understood there's only 3 permanent consultants there at TelEm, and the rest on project basis, but there are some projects that are been running for a long time. I would like to have the exact number of total consultants, please. So also those on project basis. Question 9, are there any additional measures being considered to ensure leadership continuity? I didn't really get any timelines as where that was concerned, besides the naming of the potential nominee for CEO. And the Minister made clear that TelEm is open to having a closed-door meeting. Understood. So I only have 2 more questions. As it pertains to expenditures, company expenditures, does TelEm have a list of, I'm sure they do, a list through you, Madam Chair, a list of all that is owed to them and all that they owe to other institutions? So is there a list on total things owed to institutions and what those institutions owe to TelEm? And lastly, I'll save that for another time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP York. Minister, before I give you the floor, what I'm going to do, the possibility exists after MP York's additional questions for members of Parliament using 1 minute to have the opportunity to ask questions on the topic. I am going to allow that to take place now, otherwise I'll have to stop, and the intention of a question hour is not that the minister gets a break to go and analyze and come back. So what I'm going to do, we have MP York's additional question. I'm going to allow the members who wish to make use of the possibility of 1 minute to ask additional questions. I already have two MPs who wish to do so, but I wish to inform the minister after those questions, Minister, I could just imagine that maybe given a question, you do need some time, a few minutes or whatever, but it's not like a regular public meeting that you can go for a half an hour to come back to answer. So I just want to make that clear as we proceed. So you have MP York's question. I now will give the members who wish to ask an additional question and I have MP De Wever as the first one to do so. MP De Wever, you have the floor for a question on this topic to the minister.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Good afternoon to everyone, including the minister and her team here. Actually, let me put on my timer really quickly. I want to just make it known as well that we received the answers to the questions that I did pose to the minister regarding TelEm, just so for my colleagues as well, so that they know. Those are in the email. They were similar questions to MP York, but that was just a statement. My question is actually, when MP York opened up the meeting, he mentioned something about the Minister of Finance being a shareholder representative. So it kind of triggered me just to make sure that the correct information is given, because do we have shareholder representatives again? Or is this a matter of a minister being given the mandate to actually be the main line of communication for a government-related entity? Because according to my understanding, all communication still has to come to the Prime Minister with the CC of the actual minister responsible. So I really want to define the difference between shareholder representative and communicator. Thank you.
Thank you, MP De Wever. That question has been noted. I continue, and the next one to speak is MP Doran. MP Doran, you have the floor for your additional question within the 1 minute time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is it possible for 2 questions? Is 1 question in the 1 minute or 2 in the 1 minute? 2?
No, you have 1 minute to ask questions.
Okay, thank you.
The quicker you speak, the more questions you can
Let me
ask.
continue, 15 seconds gone. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the minister. What are the details for the fiber to the home loan payment, and what is the turnaround plan? Secondly, Madam Chair, through you, what are the reasons that, why was an extra switch purchased and put in Curacao, and is this functional? If not, why not? Thank you.
Thank you, MP Doran. The next speaker, the next member of Parliament to speak is MP Iran. MP Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do any of these consultants declare any tax on St. Martin? And Minister, are you open within the first half of 2026 for forensic audit on TelEm? And just a follow-up on MP De Wever's question regarding the shareholders representative, because I didn't see anything published in the Landscourant either. So is it officially that you are the shareholder rep, the spokesperson via a calm decision? So what exactly are you? Or are you the deputy prime minister? So he couldn't make it. So what is the position, and why are you representing TelEm today? Thank you.
Thank you, MP Iran. The next MP to add questions, any additional questions on the topic is MP La Cruz. MP La Cruz, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair Lady, through you to the Minister. I'd also like the Minister, if she could elaborate a little on what is going on with Starlink, and if there are any plans, since we're talking about the financial status of TelEm and the amount of money that they are losing now. There was a discussion when I was there in the ministry to allow Starlink to make a agreement with TelEm and sell, that TelEm would then be the distributors of Starlink here on the island, since everyone is saying that we cannot block them because of the front side. If there are any plans to rectify that situation. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP La Cruz, for those questions. I see MP Lewis. MP Lewis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Seeing that this is a question hour, and I do have more than one question, but I will state one that I have here. Is TelEm in compliance with paying all their bills? Would it be possible to get a breakdown of all outstanding debts that TelEm owes its creditors? And basically, how long can TelEm continue in operations given their current situation? That's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Lewis. MP Otley, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, okay, we're ready now. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, to the Honorable Minister of Finance, what is the process for when TelEm is obtaining loans? TelEm recently made a large payment to a company, and now we speak out of Villanova loan. How can we ensure that TelEm can suffice these expenses or additional expenses beyond this year and coming? And two, not financial, but employee status. Is the government aware, or have the government been signaled that there's employee unrest at TelEm? Very important, employee unrest. That's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Otley. Minister, you have heard several questions from the members of Parliament. Again, although it's not really a part of a question hour, but I can imagine that you would need a few minutes to at least answer those that you can answer and tell us which ones you would have to, you are not able to answer during this question hour. So, Minister, I'm going to give you, I would want to say maybe 8 minutes, and at 5 p.m. we reconvene for the answering to the additional questions. This question hour is hereby adjourned briefly. Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this public meeting of Parliament, a question hour of Parliament. That is why the procedure is going as it is, and even so, we're giving a little flexibility in order to make sure that we can get in all the answers in accordance with the rules of order, so the ones initially submitted as well as the additional questions by members of Parliament, and allowing the minister the time to respond to them. Our Secretary General has recorded about 15 questions in the second round, and again, in sticking with the format of the question hour, Minister, if you do not have an answer to a question, then I would ask that, and if I follow the rules of order, it would be like if you could answer them in writing today. But since this meeting started 4 o'clock, I will ask that then whatever answers you don't have or you're not able to provide right now, I'll ask you that you do that in writing ASAP. So with that, Minister, I invite you to start with answering to the questions posed by the initiator of this question hour, so his additional questions, that being MP York, and the additional questions by the other members of Parliament. Minister Gomes, you have the floor.
Thank you once again, Madam Chair. Thank you once again, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to respond to the questions posed by the honourable members of Parliament. Commencing with MP York. MP York, first clarification or question was that he needed to understand why is it taking so long to select the CEO. This is a key leadership, MP York, Madam Chair, through you. And because it's key leadership, we need to execute the turnaround plan. That is step one. So the turnaround plan is needed to be done. In addition, the quick scan was completed in July. However, the presentation to the Council of Ministers wasn't until August. And so at this time, what is key first is the completion of the turnaround plan, which will then tell us exactly what is needed on a C-suite level, because you can imagine that if it is not desired to have a full C-suite, that because it's a crisis, that you would look at a crisis team instead. Exact number, next question, exact number of total consultants per project. This information I would need to get from TelEm directly. Next question, are there any additional measures being considered to ensure continuity? Currently, discussions are being held with TelEm to have the turnaround financial and operational plan be executed at the soonest, as this is key. In addition, TelEm remains in conversations with the financiers and creditors. Question 4, a list of all that is owed to institutions and all that is owed to TelEm. This information I would need to get from TelEm directly. Madam Chair, MP De Wever requested the audited financial statements from TelEm. The 2023 audited financial statements will be provided, and in addition, I was informed that tomorrow, TelEm's audited financial statements of 2024 will be completed, and this will also be provided once received. I move on to those questions by MP De Wever, who wanted an update on the shareholder representatives again, or is this a matter of the minister being given the mandate to actually be the main line of communication? In fact, Madam Chair, based on the calm decision of August 2025, it was agreed that I, as Minister of Finance, will serve as the contact person for TelEm, taking into account the company's financial position that needs to be addressed, while decision-making will continue at the level of the Council of Ministers. I move on to the question posed by MP Duran. What is a detailed fiber-to-home payment plan, and what is a turnaround plan? Madam Chair, details to the fiber-to-home, this information I would need to receive from TelEm. The turnaround plan was a result of the quick scan, which is key to determine the financial and operational measures that need to be taken to ensure TelEm's viability. I move on to questions by MP Arian. Do consultants declare taxes? Unfortunately, Madam Chair, I do not have this information. I would have to request that information from TelEm. The answer with regard to the mandate of me having, or me being here, was asked by MP DeWeaver, and that was also answered. Next question, is the minister open to having a forensic audit performed at TelEm? If there is an indication to execute such an audit, this matter would be discussed and agreed upon at the Council of Ministers level. Next question, what exactly is the minister? And like I stated in my position here today, based on the COM decision of August 2025, it was agreed that I, as Minister of Finance, will serve as the contact person for TelEm in the event a meeting is convened by Parliament regarding TelEm. As Minister of Finance, I will provide the necessary responses, taking into account the company's financial position that needs to be addressed, while decision-making will continue at the Council of Ministers level. I move on to questions by MP La Cruz. What is going on with Starlink? And is there a discussion taking place about the amount of money that TelEm is losing? Unfortunately, I cannot provide any information, Madam Chair, on Starlink or the impact on TelEm. This is information I would have to request from TelEm directly and the Minister of TIAT. I move on to questions posed by MP Lewis. Is TelEm in compliance with paying of all their bills? And can Parliament receive a breakdown list of all outstanding? How long can TelEm continue its operation in its current financial situation? Madam Chair, through you, there are certain outstandings from TelEm to GB and BTP. A list of all outstandings I will have to receive from TelEm. However, as previously stated, the financial statements of TelEm will be shared with Parliament. How long can TelEm continue its operations is not an answer I can provide here on the floor of Parliament. This is sensitive business information. And I move on to the questions posed by MP Otley. What is the process for TelEm for obtaining loans? How can we ensure that TelEm can suffice these expenses or additional expenses beyond this year? Madam Chair, through you, the quick scan was phase 1, and execution of the results as stated in the quick scan is key, one of which being the turnaround plan to ensure there is a viable plan in place to ensure TelEm's continuity. And finally, is the government aware of the employee unrest at TelEm? Madam Chair, through you, I am not aware of any employee unrest. However, as previously stated, we consider it important to ensure that both current and former employees are assured that they can rely on the timely payment of their monthly salaries. That comes to the end of the questions posed by the honorable MPs.
Thank you, Minister, for those answers provided. And Minister, as I mentioned, several of the questions could not have been, 6 of them you could not answer here this afternoon, and you indicated many of them to come from TelEm and some also from the Ministry of TIAT. I would encourage you, Minister, and I want to stay within the lines of the question hour, that those answers be provided as soon as possible to kind of complete this question hour, because we don't have a chance to come back or to have it for the question hour. That's one thing. So those questions that you could not answer here, and you would respond to them as soon as possible in writing. Secondly, and it was also something that MP York brought up, and I wanted to mention 2 things. MP DeWeaver already notified us, and it is a fact that we have received answers to the questions from MP DeWeaver on TelEm. We received those today. And so I'm just saying this so that the public and all the other members of Parliament know that. And I would add to that, based on those answers or any other questions members might have, another meeting could be requested. In the minister's deliberations, reference was made to TelEm having offered to come and update Parliament further in a closed-door meeting. The question that I'm going to give to the minister based on MP York's request is whether part of that meeting could not be public. So in other words, that when I call this meeting, if it could be that whatever sensitive information would be put aside, at least like that, the public too would get some information. So, but we will look at scheduling that and requesting it in the fashion that it was mentioned based on what you said, Minister. So, members of Parliament, I want to thank you. I want to thank the Honorable Minister of Finance, Ms. Marinka Gums, and your support staff here today. Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this question hour. I thank you for your participation, and I hereby close this question hour, which is a public meeting of Parliament. This question hour public meeting is hereby closed.